Alan Dershowitz went on the Piers Morgan show to justify, as he always does, that's sort of his jam, to justify the atrocities committed by Israel against Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, and as well as Arabs in Lebanon, Lebanese folk in Lebanon, past and present. The good thing was, and this is my favorite part, he got his ass handed to him. He got dragged. You know, I love debating Alan Dershowitz for lots of reasons, but I get really excited when other people debate the Dersh and defeat him. I especially get excited when Arabs debate him. I get excited when women debate him. I get excited when all the people who get marginalized in media come out and absolutely mollywop the traditional usual suspects in media. So it's pretty dope to see. So this time, the person who chin-checked Alan Dershowitz rhetorically was Rania Khalek. And if you don't know Rania Khalek, you should. She is a professor. She is brilliant. She is amazing in all the ways and all the reasons. And she jumped on. And look at Alan Dershowitz. Look at his face on the right. He's already mad. She just started talking, and he's already sick. He's like, "Oh God, I gotta hear this." Man, these are two. Everybody actually looks really disgruntled to see her talk. It's actually quite funny. But anyway, she stepped in and gave Professor Dershowitz a quick history lesson on Hamas and on Hezbollah. You got to see this. Check this out. Ooh.
Let's talk about where Hezbollah comes from. Hezbollah emerged, it's Lebanese people who emerged in the mid-1980s because Israel viciously invaded and occupied Lebanon. I mean, that invasion and occupation was so horrific. Ronald Reagan called up the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin at the time, right, and told him to stop carrying out what Ronald Reagan referred to as a Holocaust on Beirut. That is how vicious the Israeli invasion and occupation was. And under those conditions emerged a group of Lebanese people who picked up arms to defend their homes and land from occupation. And that's how you get Hezbollah. And they kicked the Israelis out in 2000. And since then, they have been seen by many Lebanese. You don't have to agree with it. I'm telling you the reality of the situation. I live in Lebanon. I know. Since then, they have been seen by many Lebanese as a force of protection against further Israeli invasions of Lebanon. And I'll also remind you, Hezbollah has never invaded Israel. Israel has repeatedly invaded Lebanon. The same goes for Hamas, by the way. Where did Hamas come from?
They haven't sent rockets?
Hamas is a group of Palestinians who picked up arms to defend their people against Israeli aggression. So if you want the aggression against Israel to stop, if you can even call it aggression, if you want that to stop, Israel needs to stop invading, occupying, and massacring its neighbors. People in your neighborhood are not going to like you if you continue to kill their families and steal their homes and land.
Bars. Woo! Rania, she ate that. It was pretty amazing to watch that. Again, the Dersh is always going to interrupt. She's always going to try and shut you down. That's actually the most quiet I've seen him be as someone else is talking, believe it or not. But she broke down why these organizations emerged. She broke down why they engage in the actions that they engage in. She framed it rightfully as resistance. This isn't just aggression or violence. You know, it's certainly not terrorism. She's saying these groups emerged for a reason, in response to something. That breakdown is so important. But anyway, human rights groups sent a letter to Israel's Attorney General demanding a criminal investigation into the country's far-right Channel 14. They say the channel has become a lobbying machine for the systemic and widespread incitement of wars and war crimes, against Palestinians. The group compiled a list in which they found 50 calls for genocide in Gaza, as well as more than 150 statements calling for indiscriminate killing, mass expulsion, and starvation against Palestinians. This is mind-boggling, considering that Al Jazeera just got raided in Jerusalem and it's been raided in Ramallah before that. Like this idea that the Arabs, the Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Qataris, they have these crazy news stations. No, it's the far right Israeli news stations that are calling for violence. Here's some examples that they included On October 14th, one of the hosts of this station said, "There are no real innocents. In 1948, they brought the Nakba on themselves. Now they'll have a second Nakba. But for real, to finish the job for David Ben Gurion." The next day, they aired a message from Israeli singer Eyal Golan, who urged that Gaza should be totally wiped out. Not one person should be left. They're literally calling for a complete genocide. On the 19th, another host claimed the enemy is not Hamas, it's Gaza. They're not even going by the normal liberal Zionist talking point, right? The enemy is not Fatah, it's the Arabs of Judea and Samaria, i.e. the West Bank and East Jerusalem. When you say population, there is no population. In Gaza, there are 2.5 million terrorists. This is the language that this station is using. Somehow they're not getting shut down. Now it's free speech. As comments like that are being broadcast, a 12-year-old Israeli girl was suspended from school. Have y'all heard this story? This is, again, another absolute ridiculous story. And I want you to at least see the video here. I'm going to post it up. And for good reason. 12-year-old Arab Israeli girl was suspended from school for sympathizing with children in Gaza. During a class discussion, the young girl noted that children in Gaza were dying of hunger. I don't know, a fact. Her classmates responded by telling her that her village should burn. The teacher did not step in. After class, the fellow students allegedly attacked her and yelled things like, "Our soldiers aren't murderers." They accused her of supporting Palestine and Hamas. It's heartbreaking to me for this kid, but also the reality. Now, again, they're attacking this young girl. There's again, they're using the us versus them narrative. Yet, if you talk to any Palestinian, some of you saying you had some audio challenges. I'll just repeat what I said. What I said is, a 12-year-old Arab Israeli girl was suspended from school for sympathizing with children in Gaza. During a class discussion, the young girl noted that children in Gaza were suffering and dying of hunger. Telling the truth. Her classmates responded by telling her that her village should burn. The teacher didn't step in. After class, her fellow students allegedly attacked her and yelled things like, "Our soldiers aren't murderers," and accused her of supporting Palestine and Hamas. Videos were posted on social media. What's fascinating about this is, if you talk about Arab Israelis, if you talk about Palestinians in Israel, they'll say, "Oh, they're citizens just like us. They get all the same rights. We have Arabs in the Knesset. We have Arabs in the Supreme Court. Blah blah blah." But now, as soon as the rubber hits the road, now it's us versus them. Now it's our soldiers. Well, if these Palestinians are really Israelis, and their soldiers are your soldiers. But we know that's not true. It's never been true. But more fundamentally, the school told her parents suspension. The girl got suspended, and they told her it was for her own protection. Education ministry officials, though, said she was inciting against the army. So first they say, "We're suspending you just to keep you safe." Who suspends someone for keeping them safe? Just to keep them safe. And then second, the Ministry of Education says that this 12-year-old girl caused incitement against the army. Do you know how ridiculous that is? But that is what happens inside of Israel. It's what happens in the West Bank. It's what happens in Gaza.